Hello, friends. Let's enjoy some coffee. All right, so trying a little something new here. Going to be doing a little coffee tasting, like I've done before in videos, but just going to try a little bit of a different format, uh, along the lines of how I was talking about making videos easier. So I think I want to do more of these kinds of videos. So I just want to try out a lot of different kinds of coffees. And uh, I guess it'll probably come off as a coffee review. Really, I want to share the one of the most enjoyable parts of coffee, which is that whole process of deeply enjoying and appreciating the moments that you get to make it, and then of course enjoying and drinking it. So I'm gonna dive in. The coffee I have today is from Conduit Coffee. I think I talked about it on a previous video really quick because I was having some. It's a Costa Rica sent to Elena. I don't have the bag here. Put it right there because the fine folks at Conduit drew a nice little thing on the bag for me. But I don't have the bag here. I have coffee in the airscape. So that's what I'm going to pull from. And I'm going to brew it on the Kalita wave and then enjoy it and kind of share along the way what that's like. So we're going to try this out, see how it goes, and let's dive in. Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. I have noticed with the airscape that um, the first aroma that you always get when you pop it open, at least for me, no matter what the coffee is, it's always kind of um, like vegetal and green. I imagine because what the airscape is doing different than anything else is I've got about that much coffee in here right now. This stopper will flush all the way down to where the coffee is and then push out all the air. So you're storing coffee in a light, tight, airtight, with as little air as possible in here. There's still a little bit. You can hear there's room, obviously, but there's very little air in there. So does something to the initial aroma, but give it a little shake. It makes me think of pineapple. It's kind of that sweet, that kind of sweet on the aroma. It's almost like, what can I hear? So if you haven't yet realized, this is my first coffee of the day. I haven't made coffee yet today. Part of what I want to do is a thing where I pop in here in the morning and I just make a coffee, and it's just nice and relaxed. It's us having coffee. I'm making it, but I think the way I do this, I'm going to do this. It's always going to be my first coffee of the day. So sometimes not yet, have not yet jump started the mind. Okay. Milk chocolate. Yeah, chocolate's always kind of the easiest one to pick out. They're very similar, um, especially in, and I hope to do this someday and get some actual, like an actual cacao pod, uh, on the show. But they're very similar in how they're processed. They're both fruit. They're both seeds. They're both seeds processed from fruit and then roasted. So I think that alone lends some similarity to the structure of aroma of the two. Okay, there's something else though, and I really want to pick it out before I move on to grinding and brewing. Almost like vanilla. Yeah, it makes me think of it definitely makes me think of vanilla. I want to say I don't smell enough actual fresh vanilla pods, unfortunately, to really draw that connection. But I've definitely baked enough things this season where that aroma of vanilla is on the mind, and so it's easy to pick out. Pineapple kind of fades away, but this coffee does have it's a honey processed coffee, which means it's kind of like this is not exactly accurate, but it's kind of halfway between a washed and a natural. So there's some dried fruit on there, and there's some aspects of like a washed coffee. So it doesn't have quite the same singular fruit punch smell that a natural coffee does, but it's got more of a pungent aroma than a washed coffee. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and measure it out and grind it and brew it. We'll see how this turns out. I want to find a way to do this where I can just show you the brew the whole time as well. I suppose that could get boring because I do the brew basically the same every time, but I could also change things up. I don't really have the camera set up for that at the moment. I'm just gonna go ahead and start brewing, and then we'll see how it looks when I edit the video. So you're obviously gonna see the final product here in a second, but I don't know how it's gonna pan out as I'm talking. All right, so I've actually already heated my water. I've got keen observers may realize I don't have the copper kettle anymore. I do have a fellow kettle. This is their electric kettle because I'm not in a place, I don't have a stove anymore. So previously, if you look back forever in the channel, as long as I've had that copper kettle, I've always been in a place where I had a stove, and that worked out really well. That kettle is still fine. It's still great kettle. I just can't use it here. So I've got the electric version. Obviously, in the matte black with these like walnut finishings, which is pretty nice. I'm going to do another video on that kettle, but it's super easy to use. You just set the temp with the dial and then turn it on and it holds that temp. So I have it at 207 and it brings the water to the temp and then holds it there. Back to the coffee. It's going to be Kalita Wave grinding on the Breville grinder. If you use this, I tend to vary between 44 and 50. Which is a sizable range. I've been enjoying playing around with the grind size. Every time I get a new coffee, I tinker around with it until I get something I enjoy. And then as the coffee gets older, I've been playing around with making the grind finer and making the ratio larger. Jesse and I talked about this on Coffee Lovers Radio, which I can't remember the episode, but I'll link to the show, coffeeloversradio.com. But I had started playing around with this maybe about a month ago, more, just making the grind finer and increasing the ratio. Because usually what I'll do is I have like approximate ratio set that I do is about 16 and a half to 1. Usually I kind of get into a habit with the Kalita and I'll do 30-ish grams in there and then I'll brew with 500 grams of water. And I think that's about 16 and a half to 1 or something like that. And I'm not like entirely I'm not like crazy precise about it, but that's about what I do. And I thought, well, why not just play around with increasing the ratio? Let's see what happens, just to have some fun exploring. And as I went through that process, I, of course, found I had to reduce the grind size, like make the grind finer. And I discovered tastes that I wasn't tasting before. It was really enjoyable. So I've been playing around with it more. So with the Breville, I'm generally in the range of 44 to 50. On this coffee right now, I'm about 47. And that's what I'm going to do today. And I'll probably start getting finer with it soon. I think it's about 2 weeks old at this point. So we'll see how that goes. The old Ikea scale, of course. All right. Kind of moved more into dark chocolate. Okay, let's put this guy away. All right, so this is where the filming gets awkward. Actually, all right, I had to, wow. It's like, yeah, it smells like fresh fruit picked right off a tree. Like, I feel like it's some kind of larger tree grown fruit. I don't have a particular one in mind. I feel like smelling this, I'm in like a rainforest and I've just plucked something really fresh and green and sweetly pungent off a tree. Ooh, that is really good. Unfortunately, I can't. Like, I'm sitting here kind of dredging my memory for a particular comparison to taste and aroma, and I'm just really not getting there. It isn't to say that it doesn't smell like anything. It smells wildly like freshly exotic. Um, it's got some like bright high notes and like honey, sort of honey sweetness, fruit, a little bit of chocolate in the background. Wow. Okay, I have to brew this before I just ground it and get obsessed. It's talking about how it smells. Okay. Okay, so while that blooms, and I tend to do a long bloom sometimes, by the way. I get into that another time. I'm gonna redo my Kalita Wave video soon. You probably saw me just rinse the filter. I do that now. I'll talk about that when I do the new how to brew Kalita Wave video because I have some updated processes. I was gonna say something else and I completely forgot. I like these moments in brewing where I've just poured the water to bloom and just kind of waiting there and letting the water saturate the grounds. All right, let's keep brewing. I think this is a really nice process for me to go through. I was just thinking as I was pouring the water there, I often find myself, I'll come to the office in the morning and I will take the time to hand brew the coffee, but I'm often doing other things at the same time. And this really forces me to be present with it more often. Not that I'm going to be recording every single day. One of the things I value about coffee so much is this whole process of brewing a cup and kind of being present with it. It's pretty close to meditation, I think. Um, I mean, I'd like to say that I regularly meditate, but I don't. I have before. Very bad at forming that habit. But it is meditative in that it brings me into the present, makes me sit in the present moment with that coffee. All right, so I'm done pouring the water there. I'm just gonna let it drain. I guess I can make a quick note on water. So I mentioned not having a stove, don't have a sink here either, or a fridge. Uh, Certain things that I got used to, I suppose, with brewing coffee and the setup that I was doing before. What I'm using right now for water is actually just the old bottle spring water, and it does a pretty good job. This is if you're trying to figure out brewing at home and you haven't figured your water out yet, I always recommend at least get a bottle. It's $1 and try brewing with it to see what the taste is like, because I find a surprising amount of times that there are issues. Maybe it shouldn't be surprising, but that there are issues. The issues being in the brew are because of the quality and structure of the water, and that's not something I can really help you out with. Like I can tell you processes for brewing, how to measure your coffee properly, how to find and assess and get good quality coffee, how to grind it, to brew, like all these other things that are important to brewing well. But if your water is not good, then you can do all the other things right, and your coffee might still come out tasting like um, stale old tea or worse. And there's nothing that I can do about that. It's impossible for me to assess. So that's why I like saying, grab a bottle of this if you're unsure. Try it out. Compare it to the water you usually use. And I talk about that in other videos as well. I'll link to crafting water because that's what I'm going to be doing here eventually. Still getting set up and used to new processes here, and then I'll introduce that and get to doing some crafted water, which should be fun on here. All right, so we've brewed our coffee. That's kind of funny. The first aroma is really reminiscent to me of a oh wow, that's changed all of a sudden. Okay, first thought, really reminiscent to me of a stovetop espresso maker of a mocha pot. And then all of a sudden it shifted into licorice. I don't know where that came from. This is a pretty full pot. You can't really go fuller on this. And I'm saying that because I think it constricts the ability to, I feel like it affects the ability to smell. So get vanilla. It's funny, I smelled the kind of wild ripe fruit on the roasted beans before grinding. And then the grinding was like an assault on the senses, really incredible. And I don't smell that here. It's not surprising. It is just interesting to smell the differences as you go through the processes. So yeah, vanilla. Let me pour. See if get some of that out of here. I'll smell in here and then I'll smell in the cup. Okay, yeah. Very strongly of vanilla, honey, kind of like there's some fresh baked like sugar cookies kind of thing to the smell. Not much fruit. Not in the way that I usually look for fruit. Although having said that, I would say that the aroma sweetness is like a fruity sweetness. Maybe in the way that like a fruit pie smells. So clearly I need to work on my setup or I'm just going to smash into things and knock coffee everywhere. First coffee of the day. Makes me think of a Heath bar, but I think that's just because I had one last night. So that's kind of fresh on my mind. This tastes different than it has the last few days. More subdued on the brightness. I feel like maybe I want to use a little less coffee brewing next time, actually. It's almost coming across a little slightly over extracted, but maybe it also just needs to cool down. It's got kind of that dark chocolate sort of bite. I really love naturally processed coffees and variations on naturally processed coffees because they have a lot more richness in just richness in taste. And I think they get knocked a bit in the specialty coffee community because the natural processing kind of gets in the way of, not gets in the way of, but here's the way I describe taste with natural and wash processed coffees. A natural processed coffee will be like really strongly flavoring of a particular thing. So like if you get like naturally processed Ethiopian coffee, you might get something that tastes a lot like wild blueberries, smells like wild blueberries, and really nothing else. I mean, you can find some other stuff in there, but it's big in like a one thing. And then wash processed coffee is delicate, but a lot of different delicate flavors. So you might go through like floral and fruity and vegetal and cacao and nuts, and you might kind of dance across a lot of different subtle flavors in a wash processed coffee. And so I think that the specialty coffee community tends more towards that subtle exploration of different flavors. And the wash process also comes off just naturally comes off cleaner, simply because it hasn't had fruit fermenting on the seeds. There's dirty isn't really the right word for it, but there's a lot there. There tends to be a muddledness, I think, um, when you include that kind of fermentation in the processing of the seed from the fruit. That's what we're talking about here. So uh, I like that richness. I like being able to taste more of the fruit and the plant and the forest where the coffee grew. I really enjoy that. Yeah, this is settled down to um, vanilla, honey, a little bit of milk chocolate. I don't know why, but my camera stopped recording. I really need to get a new camera for this kind of stuff. This is an old uh, camera that I've had for a long time. Obviously records video, but okay. So I don't know if this got caught. What I was saying is that this Costa Rica is a part of Conduit Coffee's holiday blend. You can get just the Costa Rica, which is really delicious on its own. I haven't had the holiday blend yet, but I know it's going to be good. Jesse always does a wonderful job with his blends. It's really his seasonal blends are always a lot of fun to explore. I always get them. So, highly recommend. Go grab some. I'm going to link to it below. Um, he always only has a limited amount. So if you want some, if this sounds interesting to you, just grab it right now. You won't be sorry. It's going to be really enjoyable. So, thank you for joining me for a cup of coffee today. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please leave your comments below and do subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Really helps the channel out. Really helps me reach more people when you subscribe. And I'm just remembering this now. I'm really bad at asking for that kind of thing, and I've like known this intellectually just doing videos on YouTube, but I need to do that a lot more because that's how you get the channel to grow, and that's how I can keep doing these kinds of videos. So if you haven't subscribed, uh, please subscribe. I'd love it if you subscribe. Really helps me out, helps the channel, helps more people come in, and then I can keep making um, videos like these and others. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.